Spam, it's annoying. You know what I'm talking about. The junk emails that fill up your inbox and interrupt your productivity. How much time do you waste every day deleting spam emails? I know I used to waste a lot of time hitting that delete key, but not anymore. Why? Because I found a few simple tricks to keep the spam at a minimum. What are they? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome to the Carrie Kursky Show, your partner in the fight against identity theft, fraud, and cyber threats. I'm your host, Carrie Kursky. So what is spam? Well, spam is junk email. It's kind of like the sales flyers you used to receive in your mailbox, or you might still get them. And how many of you, like me, stand by the trash can when you're going through your mail, and most of it ends up in the circular file? Well, as we progressed in this digital age, so too did our junk mail. Today, you receive the same junk mail, but instead of filling up your mailbox, it's now filling up your inbox. Spam, like junk mail, consists of unsolicited sales offers, scams, and other garbage. Because of its digital format, it's often hard to determine which is real and which is fake. But regardless, it's all still spam. So how do you get spam? Well, the number one way is by having an email address. Duh! The moment you use that email address, it increases your risk of getting spam. Spam's normal, but if your inbox becomes a spam magnet, it can be overwhelming. What most people don't realize is that they themselves could be the reason that they're getting spammed. Let me explain. So the first one I talk about is a digital chain letter. One way you can get spam is through the digital chain letter email. Well, what's a digital chain letter? Remember when someone would mail you a letter that said, copy this letter and mail it to 10 of your friends and include $1? And if you did it, you were supposed to either double or triple your money? Well, here's a hint. It didn't work. Yes, as a kid, I fell for this and lost my babysitting money. It was a sad, sad day. But today's version is focused less on the money and more on harvesting email addresses. If you still don't know what I'm talking about, here are a few of the telltale signs of a digital chain letter. They'll say things like, forward this email to 10 friends and you will have good luck. Or, can you believe this? And then it inserts some shocking, often politically related claim, forward to your friends. Or, here's a prayer for you, forward to your friends to pray for them as well. So you kind of get the picture. These emails have something in them to motivate you to forward it to your contacts. When you receive and forward these digital chain letters, well, the original or the creator of this email is blind copied. That's the BCC. So he's blind copied on every single email. Now he knows who you know, and he has their email address. And he also knows who knows you if you've received one of these digital chain letter emails. And after the bad guy harvests the email addresses and the connections, meaning who you know and who knows you, well, he would either use that information himself or he might sell it to other bad guys. Bad guys typically use this information to send spoofed emails to your connection, making it look like it was from you. Think of those phishing emails from your contacts that you might have received. Well, the reason they want to do this is because your contacts trust you, which increases the chance that your contact will either forward that same email to their contacts or that your contacts will click on a link in the email or open the email attachment. Either of these actions could be disastrous for your contacts. So a tip to remember, if you get a digital chain letter, just delete it. Keep in mind, the minute you received one of these, your email was already exposed. Not your email account, but your email address. So it knows that the person who sent it to you knows you. But by not forwarding it to your contacts, you're saving your contacts from also being exposed. Another form of spam is for marketing purposes. So a few years ago, I was curious as to why some people got more spam than others. So I did a little informal experiment. I wanted to see which online companies sold or shared my email address with others. So here's what I did. When an online business asked me for my email address, I would create a new email address and put the business name somewhere in that email address. For example, let's just say I was doing something with Amazon. So I would create an email address that would be my first initial with the word Amazon, my last initial, and then and then the rest of the email address. When a bricks and mortar business asked for my email address, I wouldn't give them my main email one. I would give them one of the other email addresses that I own and use periodically for work. As a private investigator, I have tons of email addresses. Then I waited and watched my inbox. Within days, I noticed that the email addresses that I was giving out, well, those inboxes were filled with spam. Using a custom created email address that included the business name, well, that made it really easy for me to identify which one of those businesses had sold or shared my information. I also noticed that the more I provided my email address, the more spam I received. Some of them automatically enrolled me in their weekly emails, promotional offers, things to try to get me to buy additional products, while others were phishing emails trying to get me to click on a link or open an attachment. And doing either of those, again, would have been disastrous. So here's a tip to remember. Giving your email address to businesses, whether it's online or bricks and mortar, could increase your risk of getting more spam. So be very selective when you're providing your email address. So what are some of the solutions I came up with? After this informal experiment, I became selective of who I gave my email address to. I also discovered the importance of having more than one email address. I have one that I use for work, one that I use for personal, and a few more that I give out when businesses require it, like an online purchase. So by having those additional email addresses, it keeps my primary email, well, the spam's a minimum. If you don't have an alternative email address, I suggest you get one. You can use any of the email service providers that you like, and you might be thinking, well, great, now I have to watch 2 different email accounts. Well, not necessarily. So what I do is I check my spam email accounts, and I call them my spam email accounts because those are ones that I give out to things that are not essential. But anyways, I check those email accounts maybe once a month, just a quick scan to make sure there's nothing in there that I actually need to pay attention to. So I don't have to look at it on a daily basis. I don't have to have it on my phone and get a notification every time an email comes in. Just once a month, I'll go and just do a quick little check and see if there's anything important there. But anything that's urgent or is important, well, those organizations I give my primary email addresses. Those I check regularly. So by doing it this way, the chance of missing something important is minimized, and it also minimizes the amount of spam I get in my primary email accounts. I've also learned to politely decline when asked to give my email address. What, you mean you don't have to give it when it's asked? That's right. You can politely decline. If they still persist, then give them one of your alternative email addresses. So for example, for online transactions, instead of setting up an online account, try to check out as a guest. My personal rule of thumb is if I don't plan on purchasing from this organization again in the near future, guest checkout it is. I don't set up an account. So here's an example. So one Christmas, I was buying a specific item for a relative. There was something particular that they wanted. It was a teenager, and you know how picky they are. So they were being very specific, and there was only one place where I could buy it. And it was available on one website. And I knew I was never going to buy from this website again because they'd probably, this teen would probably lose interest in that and move on to something else by the next time it was, the holidays. So when I went to check out, I tried to check out as a guest, but this particular website didn't give you that option. You had to create an online account. That means you had to create a username and you had to create a password. Typically, username is your email account. So I had to do it. I had to give up my email. Well, within hours of completing my purchase, the flood of spam began. Most of it was spam from the website where I bought the item because they were trying to get me to buy other items. And as a business owner, yeah, I get that, but don't send me 5 emails a day for products that I don't want or need. Also, they never asked me if I wanted to go on their email list. Just because I signed up for the online account because they forced me to in order to buy the one thing I needed to buy, I did not give them permission to send me emails. They just automatically started sending them. Now, I was able to unsubscribe, so I stopped getting those emails. And that's something else that'll be another episode in the future about when you should and should not unsubscribe. If it's something you remember signing up for, then you can unsubscribe. But if you don't remember signing up for it, then be very careful, because sometimes phishing emails can be sent in a way to purposely get you to click on that unsubscribe. And when you click on that link, it could be disastrous and put bad things on your device. But that'll be a future episode. And also, if you're getting my email, you definitely do not want to unsubscribe to that. But anyways, if you're forced to create an online account by having a second or alternative email address, you can use that one as opposed to your primary one. So again, you help minimize the amount of spam you're getting. Now, I'm not a Gmail user, but I know a lot of people are. So I was unaware of this cool feature where you can track where spam comes from. So what Gmail does, it allows you to customize your email address. So using my previous example of Amazon, you can customize your Gmail email address by using a period or a dot or a plus sign at the end of the first part of your email address. So if my email was carrie@gmail.com, I could use carrie.amazon@gmail.com or carrie+amazon@gmail.com to sign up for whatever I wanted to get from Amazon. Now, if you receive emails to that email address, the one you just created, from anyone else other than Amazon, well, then you know your email address has been shared by them. And I'm not saying Amazon does this. I'm just using this one as an example. Now, in the show notes, or if you click on the link to my blog post, you'll have additional information. And there's also a link to a tutorial that will teach you exactly how to do this. So all you Gmail email users, that's kind of a tongue twister, go ahead, click on the link and learn how to do this, because that way you can start tracking and finding out who is selling or sharing your information and who's spamming you. So it's a pretty cool feature, don't you think? If you don't use Gmail, you can check with your email provider to see if they offer something similar. And you can always do an internet search to find out. So here are some tips to remember when it comes to minimizing spam in your email. Number 1, don't participate in digital chain letters. Just delete them. Number 2, be selective when you're asked for your email address. You don't have to give it just because they ask for it. And if they do ask for it or require it, give them an alternative one. You can also learn to politely decline. No, thank you. I would rather not do that. Use more than one email address. I think I've shown you enough examples to reinforce why that's a good idea. Again, and in most of these email providers, it's free, so you can set up a second one. And give out that alternative one to non-important accounts or non-important requests. If it's not your bank account, your credit card, your immediate circle, friends, family, work related, all that other stuff, use the alternative one. And then just check in on that email, look in the junk, look in the inbox, maybe just once a month, just to make sure you're not missing anything. You can also use email customized features if available from your email provider, like we talked about the ones available from Gmail. And you can also mark spam as spam or junk to prevent it from showing up again in your inbox. So if you keep getting something, you can label it as junk or a spam, depending on what email provider you're using. And that tells that provider that you don't really need or want that email. So eventually it'll just come in, but instead of showing in your inbox, it'll move right to your junk folder or your spam folder. And only click unsubscribe when you know the source of the email. If it's a random email, meaning you never opted in, you didn't make a purchase with them, you didn't attend an event, you have no idea how you ended up on this email list or why you're getting this email, be very careful by hitting the unsubscribe. For those, I would say just hit spam or junk, and that way it'll move over to those, because if you click on that link and it's a true phishing email, you could be installing malware onto your device. So those are some quick little tips about how to minimize spam. If I can figure out how to eliminate it altogether, I would probably be very wealthy, very independently wealthy. But, they're still working on that. I'm sure maybe, hopefully, I pray one day we'll be able to eliminate it altogether. But I still get the junk mail flyers in my physical mailbox. So I don't know how long it'll be before we stop all the spam in the email inboxes. But there are some things you can do to minimize it so that way you don't end up being a spam magnet. And these were a couple of quick little tips. So that's it for today. So I hope these tips are helpful. They're real easy, real simple to do. And if you want more information, click on the link in the show notes and you can check out the blog post. And it'll have that link to be able to get to the features or the instructions of how to use those features through Gmail. So tell me, what have you found? Do you have any tricks that you want to share with everybody about how to minimize the amount of spam that you're getting? If so, put it in the comments below. But that's it for this week, and I hope you join me back here next week where we will continue to talk about ways to protect yourself from identity theft, fraud, and cyber threats. Until next time, stay safe.